I get used to, that's right, that's fine there, so over there, it's cool.
You okay? What were the Assyrian refugees fleeing back then?
They were, well, the last stronghold they were holding on to was a city called Urmia in Persia. When that fell, they had nowhere else to go. So all they knew is that the British were south, and they had to follow that road.
And what were they fleeing?
They were fleeing, well, their numbers at the beginning of the war, in 1915, they numbered around 800 to 900,000. By that time, men, women and children numbered 90,000. So what they were fleeing is total annihilation. It was total massacre.
Words, nice going on. Stole my thunder. I don't need to say anything about any of those bits because everybody should know they've already been at the place.
Ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't complete the ceremony inside the chapel. We've got a couple of more speeches to go through today. I just want to explain one thing about the plaques that you saw. Most of you saw the dedication plaque that was from the Assyrian nation to Captain Nicol. Now you noticed that we had Assyrian writing on it. Now that, as you know, so most of you know, and is the language of Jesus Christ that he spoke. Okay, that's the writing that we use. And obviously, of course, it was the same language that our priest prayed in, was the original language that the first Christians, obviously, the Assyrian church was the first Christian church on earth, and that's the language that Jesus spoke, and that's the language that we speak. The other language that you saw was the actual cuneiform. That's what the ancient Assyrians used to communicate with. Now, underneath that plaque, what those two wordings say is what's underneath it in English is to say that Assyria and New Zealand, you will be forever remembered by Assyria and New Zealand from this day on. That's what those two words say, and it goes back to about 4,640 years before Christ. And that's the two languages that we use up to today. We've got a couple of speeches to go through, if you don't mind, in one presentation. Can we get Mr. Sargonelia? Sargon, you want to?
It's nice to be here. I'd like to thank everyone, the New Zealand Army, the New Zealand country, everyone. I'll just give you a brief description about the Assyrians. This is a very brief description that we've sort of put together. The Assyrian history is rich and colourful one, filled with importance and contribution to the civilization and its militaristic beginning in 4750 BC to 612 BC, and to its first Christian church in 100 AD. Today's Assyrians are descendant of the people of ancient Assyrian Empire. Since the fall of the empire in 1612 BC, they have maintained their identity, their culture, and their language, which is the most important thing. The Assyrians are also credited with being the first nation in 100 AD to accept Christianity and spread it to all corners of the world. For that reason, since then they have been subjected to murder, forced conversion and expulsion from their homeland. Today they are experiencing the same dangers with the Middle East. In Iraq recent conflict, over 50 churches have been bombed. We have almost 500,000 Assyrians that are still homeless. The Assyrians are the Tana Fananua, I hope I've said that correctly, the indigenous people of Iraq and what was Mesopotamia, which includes part of Turkey, Iran and Syria. Assyria was called Bit Nahran, which meant the land between two rivers, the river of Tigris and Euphrates. Assyrian cities like Nineveh and Ashur stood between these rivers and housed the kings, and also housed the world's first modern standing army to guard against invaders. Assyrian used two forms of languages, which Gabby's gone through, uniform script and later modern Assyrian or Aramaic, the language of Jesus Christ our Lord, the language that we speak now. Thank you for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James, you wrote this down.
Thank you, Gabby. I'm going to stand here. It's a joke at home, actually. My girls tell me, how are you going to deliver your speech without a lectern? So, Gabby, how am I going to do this? Just here?
Can you see it on the table?
Yeah, okay, that matters. New Zealand Army, the Mayor, Your Reverence, Padre, and ladies and gentlemen, and most of all, Gabby and Nicole's family. I'm truly honoured as a representative of Victorian Assyrian community, a member of the Assyrian community worldwide, and as one of the direct descendants of those that have gone before me, to show and express my utmost thanks to those who gave their individual lives to protect my people from total and inhumane massacre through their courage and self-sacrifice. They were themselves part of a young nation which committed its resources and people to fight against oppression and freedom of mankind. This is a unique experience for me, as I'm sure it is for most of you. We are able to stand here some thousands of kilometres away from centre of events, and sometimes 90 years later, and draw attention to the misfortunes and deliberate massacre and miscarriage of any form of justice against Assyrian and Assyrian nation. It is also unique in sense that we are able to recognise the assistance of our foreign forces in delivering a nation from total genocide. Presently I have mixed emotions of joy, desperation and sadness. As a member of a Assyrian community, and more importantly, a member of the world community, I am proud and in awe of individuals such as Captain Robert Nichol for his gallantry and devotion. In August 1918, against all odds, he assisted in delivering some thousands of Assyrian refugees to safety. I urge you to take a short journey with me and try to imagine the condition they were to endure, given that these people were well trained and most probably well armed and equipped. But the reality was that they weren't only fighting the enemy of some 100 strong, but also their movements would have been somewhat handicapped by the harshness of countryside and the lack of or non-existing of communication due to the language barriers and the lack of supplies and in-health of both Assyrian refugees and the troops. Given the negative factors, these individuals risked everything to fulfill their objectives. This shows how strong their resolve was, and as a nation we are grateful for it and we do salute them. As an Assyrian who has direct link to their